Hey guys, tonight we step off a soot-streaked steam train into the damp, smoky heart of Victorian Germany. The station is buzzing, but not in any way that feels friendly. Just the clang of iron, the creak of wooden carts, the muttered complaints of workers already late for something they dread. You clutch the scratchy sack that holds everything you own, breathing in the thick, coal-soaked air that already coats your throat like ash. Even your eyelashes feel grimy. You've arrived, and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're tuning in from somewhere around the world, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in Berlin, or maybe Cologne or Dortmund. Names don't matter much. What matters is that this is the 1880s, and the buildings are tall, gray, and coated in years of coal dust. You can't see the sky, but you know it's up there somewhere behind the smoke. Children run barefoot in the alleyways, even in winter. One of them is gnawing on something that might be bread, but you'd rather not inspect it. The station fades behind you as you trudge into the city, guided mostly by the smell of burning peat, old sweat, and horse manure. That's how you know you're heading the right way, toward people, toward work, toward survival. Your boots, second-hand, 2 sizes too large, slap unevenly against the cobblestones. You pass a line of wagons, one of them loaded with pig carcasses, another piled high with cabbages. A man shouts something at you in thick dialect. You nod like you understand. Rule number 1, nod. Always nod. Don't give anyone a reason to talk too long or notice you're not from here. You need lodging, and fast, but good luck finding it with just a few pfennigs in your pocket. The posh parts of the city are already walled off to you, literally. Gilded windows, tiled roofs, polished boots at the front doors. Instead, you're heading to the working class neighborhoods where the air is thicker and the smells are stronger. Historians still argue whether Berlin's Kreuzberg district or Hamburg's St. Pauli held the most notoriously grimy tenements, but you don't need a debate. You just need a place that won't collapse in the night, or at least not entirely. The building you find leans like it's tired, brickwork cracked, windows covered in burlap, a door that creaks like it has complaints of its own. Inside, the hallway is dim and the air smells faintly of boiled cabbage, coal smoke, and a kind of moldy damp that settles into your bones before you've even dropped your sack. You rent half a bed. Yes, half. Your roommate works night shifts. You work day. You never meet. You just sleep in shifts and try not to think about what or who was on the mattress before you. There's no such thing as personal space, and if you snore too loudly, someone 3 doors down might bang on the wall with a broom handle. Your room, if you can call it that, is really just a corner. A bed, a peg for your coat, a cracked basin, no plumbing, of course. You'll be getting to know the outhouse soon enough, but not tonight. You're too tired, too overwhelmed, and honestly, you're not sure you want to see it yet. There's a boy down the hall practicing violin, badly. Someone is coughing, a deep, wet sound that rattles down the corridor. And somewhere behind the wall, a woman is either crying or laughing, hard to tell which. You sit on the edge of your newest bed half and realize it tilts slightly to the left. The straw mattress gives a bit. There's a faint rustle, definitely a mouse. You lie back anyway. And now you notice the ceiling. There's a giant water stain in the shape of, what is that? A goat? A map of Prussia? No, it's just spreading. Drip, drip, drip. There's no pillow, but your coat folded twice will do. Your boots stay on. It's safer that way. Outside, the city exhales a plume of smoke and soot into the already black sky. You close your eyes and pretend you don't hear the bedbugs mobilizing. And yet, this is better than what you left behind. The countryside, too poor, too slow, too hopeless. At least here there's movement, factory jobs, maybe a union if you're lucky, or unlucky, depending on the police patrol. At least here you might carve out a life, inch by inch, without the old debts, the family farm collapsing, or your uncle's sermons about how everything was better under the old king. It's not home, but it's shelter. You'll make it work. Somehow. You wake before the sun rises, not because of some virtuous work ethic, but because someone's arguing in the stairwell again. Two women this time, hurling words at each other sharp enough to split wood. One of them has a baby on her hip. The baby is screaming too, just to contribute. You sit up, or try to. The mattress sags more than you remember. Your back fin feels like someone tested cobblestones on it overnight. You stretch, wince, and pull on your coat, which now smells like someone else's onions. Maybe it always did. It's time to find shelter that feels a little more permanent. Half a bed won't cut it forever, not if you want to keep your health, or your sanity. You've heard rumors about rooms for let deeper in the industrial neighborhoods. You head that way, through alleys still slick with yesterday's rain, past grocers unloading crates of wrinkled potatoes, past old women tossing wash water into the street without warning. You dodge it, barely. That's survival skill number 2. Never walk too close to the wall. The landlords are everywhere. Some of them are just middlemen paid to show the rooms and collect the rent. Others are more hands-on, like the mustached man in the greasy vest who eyes you up and down, like you're a jar of spoiled meat he's thinking about selling anyway. He offers a corner room, corner being generous. It has a window technically. The glass is cracked and fogged with soot. But hey, it opens, sort of. Rent is due every Monday. No excuses. Pay late once, and your belongings go out the window before you do. Sometimes, literally. Historians still argue whether this practice was more common in Berlin or Leipzig. But the bruised heads and shattered tea kettles suggest it wasn't exactly rare anywhere. You put your name down, sort of. The landlord doesn't ask for papers, just coins. You pay for a week. That's about all you can afford. Rent eats half your wages, coal for heat eats another slice. The rest will go to food, eventually. But for now, you have shelter. And the rats seem smaller here, which is a luxury. You settle in. The walls are thin. You learn the rhythm of the neighbors' lives. The old tailor who talks to himself. The newlyweds who argue nightly about pickles. And the girl who sings opera when she thinks no one's listening. She's actually not bad. Not that anyone tells her. The floor creaks. The ceiling drips. One wall smells permanently of boiled onions. You find a nail to hang your coat. The basin leaks. You use it anyway. There's no stove, just a portable iron heater you'll need to feed with coal. Coal is expensive. You'll use it sparingly, meaning not at all, unless your fingers are too cold to lace your boots. Until then, you'll rely on blankets, soup, and denial. On your second night, you hear footsteps on the roof. Not unusual. Some tenants climb up there to get fresh air. Others go to escape the noise, the smell, or their own thoughts. You don't go up yet. That's an advanced move. For now, you just focus on not freezing. By the third night, you've met a neighbor, sort of. A boy your age, maybe a little younger. He knocks once, says nothing, then leaves you a crust of bread wrapped in waxed paper. You nod the next time you see him. He nods back. You never speak. The bread is stale. But it's food. Historians estimate that over half of Berlin's working-class families took in lodgers during the 80s. Some rented corners of rooms, others rented literal shelf space in attics or cellars. Entire families lived in single-window basements that flooded when it rained. If you had walls, privacy, and air that didn't make your lungs itch, you were doing pretty well. You hear stories about people freezing in winter, about families huddled around a single candle, too poor to afford more than one match a day. You tuck those stories away, not for comfort, but for comparison. Misery loves company. It also helps you sleep when your own pillow is a rolled-up pair of trousers. The bed, by the way, is your own now. Lumpy, wooden frame, straw-filled. You turn the mattress and find an old brass button, a bent hairpin, and what might be a dead beetle. You toss it all out the window, including the beetle, especially the beetle. Your routine sets in. Wake before dawn, return after dark, collapse, repeat. The room, for all its faults, becomes yours. You learn to layer your clothes at night. You stop flinching when the pipes groan. You no longer notice the onion wall. Well, not as much. And just when you're starting to settle, the landlord slides a note under your door. Rent's going up by 10 pfennigs, which is enough to ruin your math for the month. Welcome to the housing market, 19th century edition. It's cold, it's clouded, and if you survive winter without getting frostbite, evicted, or pneumonia, you're ahead of the game. Still, for now, it's shelter. Your own four walls, a cracked window, a roof with only one leak. You sleep with your boots by the door, just in case. It's morning again. Or at least, some version of it filtered through the haze of coal smoke outside your tiny, rattling window. There's no alarm clock, but the sound of clattering hooves, shouting milk boys, and the neighbor's early morning coughing fit lets you know it's time to get moving. If you're wondering what's for breakfast, the answer is not much. Your stomach grumbles. You reach under the bed for your food tin, nothing but a dry heel of bread and a smear of goose fat. Luxurious, really. You chew slowly, as if pretending you're not just eating hardened crust with a dab of yesterday's grease. That's breakfast most days. If you're feeling daring, you might try the coffee. It's not really coffee, it's roasted chicory root, or sometimes burnt beet pulp, depending on what's available. Either way, it's bitter, vaguely warm, and gives you just enough of a kick to start pretending you're awake. Historians still debate whether this coffee substitute was an act of culinary ingenuity or a state-sanctioned insult to taste buds. But hey, at least it's hot. Water? That's a different matter. The tap, if your building even has one, is likely located in a communal courtyard and works only during certain hours. And if the water runs brown, you boil it, or don't. You weigh your thirst against your trust in 19th century pipe systems. You might boil it tonight, you tell yourself. If you remember, if you're not already asleep by the time you sit down, you think about getting eggs. Then you remember eggs are for Sundays, or for families who can afford a full dozen without rationing them over 10 days. You saw a boy once with a soft boiled egg, slurping it from the shell with a spoon made of real tin. It was almost indecent. For now, you plan your meals based on a scale of 1 to, can I still chew this? There's a street vendor 2 blocks over, a wiry man with a pushcart selling yesterday's pretzels and what might be sausages, or might be sawdust wrapped in casing. You never ask. He sprinkles the sausages with a black powder he claims is pepper. You suspect it's ash. He shrugs when you ask what's in it, says protein, and winks. You buy one anyway. The smell of fried onions wafts from a nearby window. You breathe it in like it's perfume. Food envy is real, especially when you remember that rich families in this very city are eating liver pate, boiled eggs, and something called Kaiser semmel. You can't pronounce it, but you're pretty sure it's delicious. You stop at a bakery window and press your forehead against the glass like a Dickensian orphan. Inside, a stout woman slaps dough onto a wooden table, shaping it with fingers that move like they've done this forever. A boy your age exits the shop with a bag of fresh rolls. You lock eyes briefly. He doesn't look smug, just tired. You nod. He nods. You both walk away. By now, the bread cart's passed. The good stuff is gone. What's left are crusts bundled in paper cones, sold cheaply to workers who don't ask questions. You get one. You chew it until it turns to paste in your mouth. It tastes like a memory of wheat. You could cook, theoretically. You even bought a pot, used, dented, but functional. The iron heater in your room can warm it, if you can spare the coal. And if you don't mind the smell of boiling onions taking up residence in your pillow for the next 3 days. You once tried to make soup. It was mostly water and an optimistic carrot. It lasted 3 meals if you count drinking the broth and pretending there was still food in it. There's talk of community kitchens being opened by the city. Some church group, maybe. You might go. But the line starts at dawn and stretches down the block, and they ask questions, your name, your employer, whether you believe in God, whether you deserve the soup. Instead, you plan your day like this. Find something warm to eat. Stretch your food money until Thursday. Don't get sick. Getting sick means missing work. Missing work means no money. No money means no rent. No rent means back on the street. And back on the street means, well, no more burnt beet coffee for you. Still, there's something oddly comforting in the routine of it. Hunger becomes familiar. The bread cart comes at the same time. The pretzel vendor jokes the same way. Even the water pipes cough in rhythm with your mornings now. One day you find an actual cafe. Not a fancy one. Not with marble tables and polished spoons. This one has cracked mugs and crooked stools. But it smells of real coffee. Maybe. You save for a week. You go in, you sit at the back. You order the cheapest thing, a roll and a mug of something dark. You sip. You can't tell if it's burnt, brilliant, or both, but it's warm. A man near you is reading the newspaper. You catch a headline about Bismarck, another about a factory fire. You don't have time for politics, but you read the cartoon anyway. It makes you smile, barely. A man near you is reading the newspaper. You catch a headline about Bismarck, another about a factory fire. You don't have time for politics, but you read the cartoon anyway. It makes you smile, barely. That's breakfast in Victorian Germany. Sometimes it's bread, sometimes it's bitter root, sometimes it's a moment where your stomach forgets to complain. The factory bell rings at 6 a.m. sharp. You're not there yet, but you should be. In fact, you're already late if you're not in line by the time the foreman swings open the gate. You run, not a full sprint, your boots wouldn't allow it, but a half shuffle, half jog that rattles your knees and sends yesterday's crust of bread tumbling inside your gut like gravel. The streets are thick with workers just like you. Coal boys, cart pullers, seamstresses, errand girls, apprentices. No one talks, no one smiles. You all march toward the same smokestacks, the same hiss of steam, the same clanking chorus of iron and gears. The bell is everything. Historians still argue whether the factory bell system began as a helpful tool or a subtle kind of warfare against the working class's free will. But what's clear is that once the bell rings, your life is not your own. You reach the gate just as it creaks shut behind the last man. You squeeze through anyway. The foreman eyes you, says nothing. You made it. Barely. That's enough. Inside, the air is instantly hotter, thick with soot, steam, and the sharp metallic scent of iron dust and sweat. The machines are already growling, looming beasts with spinning belts and teeth made of polished steel. You tighten your apron, roll up your sleeves, and head to your station. You work in textiles. Today. Tomorrow it could be soap, bricks, or sheet metal. Workers float between factories like moths searching for a less scorching flame. No one stays long unless they're desperate, or dead. Your station is a spinning frame. You monitor threads, retie knots, and make sure nothing snaps. If something does, the machine doesn't care. It will keep going, so will your boss. Your hands, they'll bleed. Just a little. 3 hours pass. Someone screams. You don't look. That's rule number 3. Never stop working. Even if it sounds like someone lost a finger. Especially then. The foreman stalks the floor like a bad-tempered dog. He taps his cane on the floorboards when someone slows down. No one talks. The machines are too loud anyway. If you want to say something, you mouth it and hope the person next to you is fluent in facial expressions. You develop a sixth sense for when things will jam. You can feel it in the vibration of the floor. You preemptively adjust the tension. You're learning. Fast. Because slow learners lose wages, or limbs. Someone told you once that a girl your age got her braid caught in the bobbin wheel. You keep your hair short now, or stuffed under a cap. It's mid-morning. You don't get a break, but you pretend. You glance at the window, grime smeared but still letting in a bit of light. You wipe your forehead with your sleeve. Your shirt is already soaked through with sweat. You're lucky though. This factory uses gaslight, not candles, less fire risk, or so they say. Still, there's a water bucket in every corner, just in case. It's never been used. The water is mostly for show. You don't trust it, but you're glad it's there. You hear a whisper. Someone near you is passing around a bit of peppermint, smuggled in. A luxury. You get a piece the size of a fingernail. You let it sit on your tongue and pretend it's a holiday. By noon, if it is noon, time is a theory in here. You're dizzy. The heat has a taste now, like metal and burnt cloth. You blink twice to stay upright. Someone faints. You keep spinning. Rule number 4, if you fall, fall forward. Maybe the foreman won't notice. You weren't built for this, but no one is. That's the secret. No one ever tells you that survival doesn't mean thriving. It just means staying upright long enough to collapse somewhere private. There's a boy next to you. He's new, still pale, still hopeful. He's only coughed twice today, which means he's not been here long. You nod. He doesn't nod back. He's too focused, or too scared. Lunch comes in a blur. Actually, it doesn't. Lunch is theoretical. If you're lucky, you get 5 minutes. If you're luckier, you brought something with you. If you're not lucky at all, you work straight through and chew air. Today, you've got a crust of bread. You eat it behind the spinning frame. It smells like oil now, tastes like victory. The machines roar back before you even swallow. Afternoon means more of the same, but louder, hotter. Your muscles scream louder than your thoughts now. Your brain becomes a loop. Thread, tie, dodge, duck, wipe, thread again. You've developed calluses in places you didn't know could blister. Your back aches. Your ears ring. You think you're still standing. You hope so. The foreman rings the bell again. Finally. You don't walk. You limp, or slide, or ooze toward the exit like a creature escaping captivity. You try not to breathe too deeply. Outside, the air is still foul, but it doesn't hum with metal. That's something. Your shift is over. 12 hours, give or take. No overtime, no applause, no thanks. Just exhaustion and the quiet satisfaction that your hand wasn't part of the machinery today. You survived the bell. Again, barely. Outside, you blink like a mole dragged into daylight. The sky is dim but open. Less of a ceiling, more of a question. Your fingers are raw. Your legs wobble. Your shirt clings to your back like it resents you. And the soot is everywhere. It clings to your collar, your sleeves, the creases of your eyelids. You could probably carve your initials into your skin just by tracing the filth with your finger. You shuffle away from the factory gates with the rest of the herd. No one talks. There's no energy left for speech. Just quiet nods, shoulder bumps, and the soft creak of exhausted boots on worn cobblestones. You pass a trough of water outside a butcher's shop. Not for people, for horses. But still, you eye it for a second longer than you should, just imagining dipping your hands in, rinsing the factory off your skin. But that's not for you. Instead, you take the long way home. Why? Because it's quieter. Because it means 5 fewer shouting children, 3 fewer drunk men, and at least 1 less chance of stepping in something unmentionable on the tenement stairs. Besides, your brain needs time to soften again after all that clanging metal. You're not ready for 4 walls just yet. You stop at a pump. You wash your hands. Kind of. The water is ice cold and tastes faintly of iron, but it removes the top layer of grease. You dry them on your already dirty pants. Then you take a breath, and then another. By now the sun is down, or nearly so. It's not like you noticed it rising. You work underground, basically. Even the windows are just glass suggestions. You pass a woman beating a rug with a wooden paddle. It looks aggressive, therapeutic even. You make a mental note to try it someday. Someone's boiling cabbage in your building. Again, the scent hits you from the alley, wet, sour, and determined. It wraps around your body like an old, unwanted coat. You breathe through your mouth. When you reach your room, it's cold. Of course it is. You light your little heater, just 2 lumps of coal tonight. You sit near it, rubbing your hands together until they start to feel like hands again and not chipped bricks. Then the real work begins. You take off your shirt. It practically groans as it comes loose, stiff with sweat, dust, and the scent of labor. You give it a sniff, then immediately regret that. You rinse it in the basin. The water turns black. Not dark, black. You wring it out and hang it over a line strung between 2 rusty nails. It drips rhythmically, like a metronome marking time until morning. Next up, your boots. They're falling apart. One sole has started to separate. You squint at it like a dentist examining a troublesome molar. You consider the cost of repairs, then you consider how bad they'll feel wet. Then you just sigh and set them next to the heater, hoping the warmth glues them back together by sheer optimism. You sit on your mattress. You breathe. You make a mental list of what else you need to fix. Your coat's lining, the hole in your sock, your missing shirt button, your dignity, but that one's optional. The thing about free time in Victorian Germany is, it's never free. If you're not working at your job, you're working at surviving. Patching, mending, boiling water, sweeping the floor, shaking out the straw mattress to evict any freeloaders. Bugs, not people mostly. Historians still argue whether the average laborer actually had more leisure time than we assume. But what's certain is this: free time didn't mean rest. It meant survival maintenance. And maybe, just maybe, a second to stare at the ceiling and wonder what life is like 2 streets over. You eat, sort of. A heel of bread dipped in boiled onion water. The broth's gone cold, but it fills your stomach. You pretend it's stew. That helps. You stare at your tiny mirror. You look older. You look tired. You look gray. Even your eyelashes seem sooty. You wipe them with a wet cloth. The cloth ends up darker than your shirt. Success? There's noise outside. Laughter, clinking glasses, a harmonica. The beer hall down the road is alive tonight. Part of you aches to go, to sit at a sticky wooden table with a warm mug and the sound of people who aren't half dead with exhaustion. But beer costs money, and staying out late costs energy, and you're fresh out of both. You sit in your socks, staring at the flicker of your heater like it's a fireplace in a grand estate. In your mind it grows. You pretend your room is warm. You pretend the roof doesn't leak. You pretend tomorrow might be easier. You take your shirt down, still damp. You lay it flat near the heater. You hope it dries by morning. You don't have a second one. And then, only then, you allow yourself to lie down. The bed creaks. Your body groans louder. Every joint files a complaint. But the mattress, for all its flaws, accepts you. You tuck your knees. You pull the blanket to your chin. You ignore the faint chewing sound near the wall. Probably the rat again. You've named him Otto. You made it through the day. That's something. You've bathed in pump water, eaten theoretical soup, and mended a boot with prayer. You are, against all odds, still functioning. Tomorrow the bell rings again, but for now you rest. There's a knock at the door. 3 raps, sharp, businesslike, the kind that don't wait for permission. You sit up so fast you nearly roll off the mattress. It's still dark, but not factory dark, just dawn dark. That in-between gloom where everything looks like it's wearing someone else's shadow. You wipe the sleep from your face, heart already climbing into your throat. Another knock, firmer this time. You freeze. Could be the landlord, could be the watchman, could be someone looking for the tenant before you, the one who left without paying. You mentally review what you owe, what you hid, what you forgot to lock. You're pretty sure you're fine, but also, not entirely. Then silence. The knock doesn't come again. That's somehow worse. You crack the door. No one's there. But something is. A folded scrap of paper, weighed down with a stone. No name. Just 2 words scrawled in pencil. Be careful. You look up and down the hallway. Nothing. No sounds except the wheeze of someone coughing in another room. Probably the widow down the hall. She never answers questions but always listens. You pocket the note. You'll think about it later. For now, there's work to do, and if you thought factory work was the only way to exhaust yourself, surprise. Surviving outside the factory might be even worse. Because once you leave those iron gates, you're still watched, always. The landlord watches to see if you're hiding lodgers. The foreman watches to see if you're organizing. The priest watches to see if you're slacking. And your neighbors? They definitely watch. Some for gossip, some for protection, some because it's the only entertainment they can afford. That's the thing about Victorian Germany. It's structured like a machine. Everything fits into a gear, and you're one of those gears. If you jam up, if you question too much, pause too long, ask the wrong person the wrong question, you might find yourself replaced, quickly. You pass a group of girls in starched aprons heading to the dye works. Their hands are already stained at the edges, a faint blue like ink that won't wash off. One of them nods at you. You nod back. That's your entire social life. The city doesn't reward friendliness. It rewards obedience. You arrive at the factory 10 minutes early. That earns you nothing. But being 10 minutes late would have cost you half a day's wage. Math like that keeps you punctual. Your foreman isn't here today. Instead, a younger man stands by the gate. He has a mustache that looks freshly combed and a whistle around his neck like a badge of office. He doesn't speak, just stares, makes a note in a book as each worker files past. You feel your spine straighten. You suddenly forget how to blink naturally. He doesn't stop you, but he watches. Inside, the routine resumes, spinning, clanking, threading, wiping. You swear the machines are louder today, or maybe your ears are just worn thin. Your fingertips are red from constant tying. You no longer notice the occasional pinch of blood. That's just part of the job now. You don't even flinch. Today, there's a rumor circulating quietly. Someone said the union men are back. They're trying to organize again, quietly, softly, like a whisper in church. You pretend not to hear it, but you do. Everyone does. Historians still argue whether these early workers' movements were born of desperation or courage, but either way, they were dangerous. Joining could mean a better life, or no life at all. You keep your head down, but at lunch, your 5-minute crust break, you spot a pamphlet tucked behind a pipe, just barely sticking out. You don't touch it, but someone will. The new boy's missing today, the pale one who used to cough into his sleeve. No one says anything. You won't ask. That's survival rule number 5. Never notice too much. Later you get scolded, not for a mistake, but for moving too slowly. Your thread snapped, twice. The foreman's replacement doesn't shout, just writes your name in a little book. Quiet punishment is worse. You spend the rest of the day wondering what it means. A dock in pay? A warning? A note sent to the landlord? Or worse, reported to the authorities? Because in this city, suspicion spreads faster than soot. People have been fired for reading the wrong newspaper, for going to the wrong beer hall, for asking the wrong question about wages. By the end of your shift, your shoulders feel 2 sizes heavier. The bell rings and the floor empties fast. You move slower, half waiting for someone to stop you. No one does, but you don't breathe easy until you're 3 blocks away. You consider stopping at the baker's. You don't. You're not sure how long you'll be employed. Bread can wait. Instead, you walk past the old church with the missing steeple, past the ironmongers with the crooked sign, past the boy who's always selling firewood from a cart too heavy for him. You reach your room. The hallway is darker than usual, quieter. You unlock your door. There's another note. Just one word this time. Careful. You check the window. Close. The lock is still intact. The street below is empty. You don't know what it means, but your boots stay on. Dinner? A crust of bread and the smell of someone else's stew leaking through the wall. You scrape the last bit of goose fat from the tin. Your fingers tremble, but it's not from hunger this time. You sit in the corner of your room, not on the bed, just near the wall. Quiet. Still. You remember something your father once said, back before the cities, before the factories. If a place is too loud to hear yourself think, it's because someone doesn't want you thinking. Tonight, you hear everything, and you're not sure if that's better or worse. The bell tolls in your dreams now. Even in sleep, you hear it. Its weight, its rhythm, its iron certainty. It's not just the sound of work anymore. It's the sound of obedience, of belonging to something bigger, colder, and far less forgiving than you. You wake up before it rings. Your hands are already sore. You try to flex them into usefulness before you leave the bed, but they crack and resist like rusted hinges. You stare at your palms in the gray pre-dawn light and wonder if this is what old age feels like, or if, in this life, you'll just skip straight to it. You dress in layers because it's bitter outside, a dry, windless cold that settles in your chest and rattles your teeth. You grab your hat, the one you found on a bench 3 weeks ago and quietly claimed. It's too big, but it's yours now. Outside, the streets shine with frost. Even the soot looks frozen. Your breath clouds the air as you walk. You pass an old man with a limp sweeping the entryway of a shop. He doesn't look up, just sweeps, slowly, like it's the only thing he's ever done. At the factory gates, the foreman is back, the one with the creased brow and the eyes that never seem to blink. He nods you through. Today feels normal, which is somehow unsettling. But normal doesn't mean easy. You're on a different task now, hauling sacks, sand, coal, wool, doesn't matter. The sacks don't care about your frame or your injuries, they just sit heavy on your spine like guilt. You drag, lift, drop, over and over. You think about asking for gloves, you don't. You think about asking for a water break, you don't. You think about quitting, you really don't. Instead, you watch the foreman's boots. Polished leather, always dry. Unlike yours, which are soaked with slush from a delivery run earlier. Your socks squelch with each step. You can't feel your toes anymore, which is both a problem and a solution. At lunch, you sit beside the stove in the loading area. It's warm, but only on one side. You turn slowly, like a spit-roasted potato, trying to dry both shoulders equally. Someone shares a story, low voice, no names. Apparently, a woman at the dye works collapsed yesterday. Blood in her mouth. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, or maybe it was fumes, or maybe both. Historians still argue whether working conditions were worse in textiles or chemical production. The answer seems to be yes. You don't say much, just nod. The boy next to you offers you half his turnip. You trade him a crust. The exchange is silent, sacred, and completely understood. The bell rings again. You rise. Your body protests, but your feet move anyway. It's muscle memory now, obedience built into your bones. The second half of your shift blurs. Your back aches, your fingers swell. You can feel a blister forming under your left heel, but you ignore it. You'll deal with that later. You always do. Then the whistle blows, not the end of day bell, a different whistle, sharp, urgent. The machinery stutters. A few workers freeze mid-movement. You do too. Something's happened. There's shouting at the far end of the floor. You catch glimpses through the spinning belts and gears. Someone running, another falling. A scream, then boots. Dozens of them, police. Just like that, they swarm the building like smoke. No questions, just searching, grabbing, pulling workers into corners, checking pockets, shaking down crates. You stand still, don't breathe, you're just a gear, harmless, unimportant. Please let them look past you. A man 3 rows over is dragged out. His face is bloodied. You don't know him, you don't want to. The foreman says nothing, doesn't even glance up. The raid lasts 7 minutes. Then, just like that, they're gone, no explanation, no apology. The bell rings again. The machines roar back to life. You resume hauling sacks like nothing happened. That night, your hands don't stop shaking until long after you're home. You don't light the heater, you just sit in the dark. Listen to your own breath. Try to piece together what the police were looking for. Union papers, smuggled leaflets, or just someone to make an example of. You take the careful notes from your pocket. You read them again. You start to wonder if they were ever meant for you at all. And then you hear it, outside your window. Footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. They stop. You hold your breath, nothing. Then a single knock. Not your door this time, someone else's. But you don't move, you don't breathe. And eventually, the footsteps go away. You stay in the dark, and you wait for the bell. The morning after a raid doesn't feel like a morning at all. It feels like you've woken up inside a bruise. Quiet, swollen, aching. The city is muted today, not silent, just muffled. Like everyone's pretending a normal day is about to begin, even though no one really believes it. You leave your building with extra caution. You check the hallway twice, glance out the window, then step onto the street like it might bite you. The air is colder than it was yesterday, somehow more brittle. Your boots crunch over a thin sheet of frost as you walk, and the sun, if it can be called that, is barely a suggestion behind the gray. Everyone you pass has the same face today, blank, eyes forward, mouths shut. You hear fewer greetings, fewer shouts. Even the newspaper boys are whispering their headlines. You don't catch them all, but the word arrested cuts through loud enough. You don't run into the foreman on the way in. That should be a relief. It isn't. You scan the factory floor. The man who was taken yesterday? Still gone. His station is empty. The tools are still there. Even his tin cup sits exactly where he left it, half full of cold, grayish water. It looks like he'll be back, but he won't. You start your shift. Your hands move automatically. Your back adjusts to the weight. Your feet find their place among the worn boards and puddles of oil. But your mind doesn't follow. You keep thinking about the whistle, the blood, the books they checked, what you have. You remember the pamphlet you once saw tucked into the pipe? Did you pick it up? No. But what if someone thought you did? Historians still debate how widespread surveillance really was in industrial cities like Berlin. But from down here, boots on the floor, it feels omnipresent. Everyone's watching everyone, and no one is ever really safe. At lunch, the boy with the turnip isn't here either. No one mentions it. You're not even sure you remember his name. Your food tastes like cardboard, and that's generous. A crust and half a pickled radish today. You chew slowly, pretending not to notice how hollow your stomach feels even afterward. A girl across from you is crying quietly. A coworker hands her a bit of boiled potato. She takes it, nods once, and keeps working. That's all. Grief is compact here, folded up like handkerchiefs and tucked away until later. You return to your station. But today, the machines are worse. They whine louder, they buck slightly under the pressure. And for a moment, just one, you catch yourself fantasizing that one might just snap and tear the whole place open. Not out of malice, just escape. Instead, you fix the thread, tie the knot again, and move on. Outside, after shift, the city breathes in short gasps. You pass a corner where some workers have gathered around a notice board. You stop too, not too close, just enough to glance. There's a new posting from the city council, a list of prohibited gatherings, a warning about seditious materials, a reminder that any printed text without approval may be grounds for detention. You nod slowly, so does everyone else. No one speaks. Later, you hear a rumor. A priest in another district was arrested for quoting the wrong scripture during a homily. Something about the meek inheriting the earth. The congregation clapped. That was enough. You return home. You boil water. Not for tea. You don't have any. Just to keep your fingers warm while you sit. You dunk your hands into the steam like they're broken tools that might still be coaxed back to function. You remove your boots and notice the blisters torn open. You dab it with vinegar. It stings. You bite the inside of your cheek and say nothing. The neighbor on the other side of your wall is singing again. Not opera this time. A lullaby. You press your head against the wood and let it vibrate through your skull like a whispered spell. You don't know the words, but the melody is something soft, something slow, something that doesn't belong to soot or cold or factory bells. It belongs to something else, something before. You lie down in your damp bed with your coat over your legs and your shirt still buttoned. You try to remember what it felt like to fall asleep without fear. You can't, but the song lingers. For once, the rat in the wall is quiet. Maybe even it is listening. And for a few minutes before sleep claims you, you are suspended in something still. Something that almost feels like peace. Your throat hurts. That's the first thing you notice when you wake. Like you swallowed a mouthful of coal dust in your sleep. Which, honestly, you probably did. You cough once, twice, and it sounds wrong, wet, rattling. You sit up slowly. Your joints ache in the way that makes you think about staying home. Just this once. Just one day to rest, to breathe something that hasn't been exhaled by 50 strangers and filtered through industrial pipework. But you already know you're going. Missing work isn't a decision, it's a gamble, and you're too broke to bet against the house. You tug on your shirt, damp again. You can't tell if it's still drying from last night or if the humidity has decided to adopt it permanently. Either way, it clings to your skin like a second layer of bad choices. You lace up your boots. The blister screams, you ignore it. Outside, the world smells wrong today, like boiled cabbage and street ash had a child and named it Weather. You pass a woman with a basket full of wilted greens and a child too tired to cry. She nods at you, and you nod back. The shared language of exhaustion. The factory looms. But halfway there, your legs slow. You're dizzy. Your vision tilts, just slightly, like the world's been hung askew. You stop and lean against a wall, pretending to tie your boot, pretending not to notice the way your lungs feel 2 sizes too small. You keep walking. At the gate, the foreman gives you a look. Not cruel, not kind, just that same factory stare, the one that measures your productivity in half blinks. You make it inside. You start your shift. You pretend not to notice how your hands are trembling more than usual, how your balance keeps shifting, how every breath feels like sucking wind through wet wool. A few hours in, the girl beside you says something. You don't catch it. The machines are too loud, or maybe it's the ringing in your ears. You nod anyway. Then the cough starts again, loud, hard, ripping. You cover your mouth with your sleeve. Black flecks stain the fabric. You taste iron. There's no health office, no break room, no nurse. Just a small, grimy corner near the water pump, where people go to lean against the wall until they can stand again. You go there. A man there offers you a rag soaked in spirits. You take it, press it to your nose. It burns, but the dizziness recedes a little. You work the rest of your shift in a haze. Later, after the final bell, someone mentions the clinic. You laugh, because calling it a clinic is generous. It's a church basement with a bucket, a blanket, and a man who once read a medical textbook. Still, you go. Your legs move without checking in with the rest of your body. The clinic is 2 blocks from the factory, down a stairwell that smells like mildew and desperation. Inside, it's crowded, a boy with a broken finger, a woman clutching her stomach, a man coughing blood into a handkerchief already red. You sit on a bench, it creaks beneath you. Eventually, the doctor, Father Klein, technically, waves you forward. He shines a candle near your face, listens to your breathing, taps your chest, then shrugs. No fever, he says. Rest, water, onion broth if you can get it. He hands you a paper-wrapped lozenge that tastes like burnt mint and floor. You thank him. You leave. Outside, the air feels heavier, like it's pressing down on you, just to make sure you remember where you are. Historians still debate whether health conditions for workers in industrial Germany were poor or catastrophic. You're leaning toward the second option. Back in your room, you collapse. You don't boil water. You don't remove your boots. You don't even light the heater. You just lie there. You think about what it means to be sick here, not in the call off work and sip tea way, but in the miss a shift and lose your place in the world way. No safety net, no savings, just gravity, debt, and the constant background hum of being one bad day away from nothing. You cough again. Otto, your rat roommate, scurries across the floorboards. Even he seems concerned. You laugh once, it hurts, then you close your eyes and dream of air that doesn't weigh anything at all. You don't dream about much that night, just walls, endless walls, brick and wood and wallpaper that peels like sunburned skin. You're running your fingers along them, looking for cracks, for doors, for something that says out, but all you find is mold, dampness, and a silence so loud it hums. You wake coughing, not the deep, terrifying kind, not yet, but the kind that says your lungs are tired of this air, of this room, of this life. Your body aches, but you get up, because you have rent to pay, and rent doesn't care how sick you feel. You trudge into the hallway and immediately regret it. The smell hits first. Damp clothes, spoiled food, something dead or dying in a wall somewhere. And then you see them. Rats. 2, maybe 3. One bold enough to look you in the eye. "Morning, Otto," you mumble. He twitches his nose, unbothered. You head to the shared washroom at the end of the hall. It's more of a closet, really. A chipped basin, a cracked mirror, a damp cloth hanging from a hook like it gave up mid-swing. You splash cold water on your face, cough again. A child is crying in one of the rooms down the hall. Someone is already cooking cabbage. Of course they are. You think about taking the day off. Then you remember. It's Monday, rent day. You head downstairs. Herr Baumann, your landlord, is waiting. He sits at a small table in the entranceway, surrounded by a stack of receipts and the kind of silence that suggests someone is about to be very disappointed. He nods at you without looking up. You hand over your coins, all of them. He counts, slowly, then raises an eyebrow. "You're short," he says. You nod. "Factory docked my pay." He shrugs. "Not my problem." You swallow. "I'll make it up next week." He tears your receipt in half. "You'd better." He doesn't yell. Baumann never yells. He just remembers. Quietly. Permanently. You go back upstairs. Rent paid. Wallet empty. That's the dance. You sit on your bed and stare at your boots. The left one is still damp from yesterday. You lace them anyway. The rat watches from the corner. You salute him. He nods. You leave for work. The street is louder today. A cart overturned. A woman yelling about stolen bread. A boy running so fast his cap flies off. You almost laugh, but then you remember that your room still leaks, that your mattress smells faintly of vinegar and old feet, that if you lose your job, you lose that mattress too, so you don't laugh. At the factory, someone's crying, not sobbing, just leaking quietly from the eyes while tying threads. No one asks, no one comforts, there's no time. The machines don't care. You keep working. Your hands move without asking you first. Your feet stay planted like roots that forgot how to lift. You are part of the machine now, if only because being part of something is safer than being seen alone. Later, back home, the walls close in again. You boil water, you drop in a slice of onion and call it soup. You lie to yourself and say the flavor's better this way. You drink it slowly, like tea, like hope. And then comes the scratching. Not auto this time, something larger. You put your ear to the wall, listen. Voices, low, urgent, muttering in the apartment next door. You catch a word, meeting. Then another, papers. You step back. You shouldn't have heard that. Historians still argue whether the walls of tenement buildings amplified or concealed political organizing. What's certain is this: they didn't keep secrets. Sound carried, so did danger. You sit down, quietly, try not to think about it, but your brain's already racing. Are your neighbors radicals, students, union men? What if the police come again? What if they think you are part of it? You glance at your window. You check the lock. You blow out the lamp early tonight. The darkness feels like safety, for now. You hear singing, not the operatic warble from the neighbor across the hall, and not the church choir 3 streets down. This is something raw, rough voices harmonizing in the stairwell. Male voices, young, loud, not drunk, but definitely bold. A tune that sounds like an old folk song dragged through city grime. You catch pieces of the lyrics. Bread, fire, freedom. You don't open the door, you just listen. Because in Victorian Germany, a song could be a protest, or a warning, or both. And you've learned that even something as harmless as a melody can earn you a knock on the door after dark. The singing fades. You go about your day. You wash your shirt again. Cold water, cracked soap, fingers red and raw. You hang it to dry next to the window that never truly closes. You eat what's left of last night's bread, dipped in the last of the onion broth. You make a mental list of what you need: matches, coal, a whole new pair of lungs. And then you decide to do something brave. You speak to someone. The tailor downstairs, hair lens, sits on his stoop every morning, smoking a crooked pipe and pretending not to notice anyone. He's been here longer than anyone. His back is bent like a question mark, and his mustache could double as a broom. You pass him daily. Today you stop. Morning, you say. He squints, then nods. Bit cold, you offer. He grunts, not quite disagreeing. Progress. You sit beside him, awkwardly. The stoop is cold and damp. He smokes. You freeze. Finally, he speaks. You from the east? You nod. Farm town. He grunts again, but it sounds almost like approval. Thought so. You people don't talk. You chuckle, and it surprises both of you. He taps his pipe on the stair. Careful who you talk to. These walls have ears. Some of them even work. You nod. Then he says nothing else. But you've been given the smallest stamp of approval in tenement terms. Later, in the courtyard, you meet someone else. A washerwoman, arms like tree trunks, wrinkles like mountain folds. She eyes your bucket, your shirt, your sorry excuse for soap. You wash like a man, she says, which is apparently an insult. She takes your shirt, scrubs it with something gray and angry looking, and returns it smelling less like despair and more like vague lemon. Thanks, you mumble. She snorts. You'll owe me later. She probably means it. That's fair. Upstairs, the hallway is buzzing. A man named Kessler, 3rd floor, former printer, current threat to public order, was arrested the night before. No one heard it. No one saw it. But his door is broken, and his things are gone. Historians still argue whether police raids were randomly brutal or methodically cruel. In the hallways of the working poor, it made no difference. Gone is gone. A woman near you whispers, he was a good man. Another whispers, he asked too many questions. You don't say anything. You repair your boot with a thread you borrowed from the tailor's discarded scrap. You sweep your room. You check the bucket. Still leaks. You patch it with wax from the candle stub you saved. It won't last, but it feels like progress. Then, evening. The beer hall down the alley is loud tonight. You go, not inside, just near enough to hear. The windows glow with warmth. Inside, people shout, sing, laugh like they're not exhausted, like they haven't spent all day inhaling soot, like beer and sausages are enough to wash away the weight of the world. You sit on a crate just outside. You close your eyes and pretend you're inside, too. Pretend your boots are dry and your stomach full. Pretend your name isn't on a list somewhere. Someone stumbles out of the hall and throws up in the alley beside you. Pretend harder. Back upstairs, your neighbor is singing again. A lullaby, the same one as last week. You sit on the floor and hum along, quietly. Otto the rat squeaks his approval. You're not alone, not really. You've met the tailor, the washerwoman, the singer through the wall, the boy with the turnip, the ghost of Kessler, all part of the tenement now, all trying to survive, just like you. Sunday arrives like a punishment. You'd think a day off would feel like freedom, but in Victorian Germany, Sunday is a different kind of cage. The factories are silent, the markets are shuttered, even the beer halls go still, and unless you enjoy the sound of your own stomach growling and the distant drone of sermons, there's not much to do but endure it. You wake later than usual. Your body doesn't thank you for it. It's too sore for gratitude, but you stretch anyway. The walls creak with the quiet groaning of people forced to slow down. You hear broom handles knocking on ceilings, someone hammering wood, and the faint gurgle of water being boiled for the 5th time this morning. Outside your window, the city is unusually calm. Church bells ring somewhere off in the fog. You watch as neighbors dressed in their second-best clothes head down the street in stiff lines, hats perfectly centered, expressions neutral. Lutheran guilt hangs in the air like wood smoke. You have 2 options: go to church and be seen, or stay home and be noticed. You go, not out of faith, but out of habit and strategy. Church is where people are accounted for. If you're absent, someone might ask why. Someone might report why. And so, with your one clean shirt and your coat brushed as well as possible, you join the river of piety flowing toward the stone church at the square's edge. The pews are hard. The hymns are long. The sermon is, well, it's in High German, and you can barely keep your eyes open, but you catch a few phrases: humility, discipline, divine order. You glance around and notice people nodding, whispering, Amen, folding their hands in practiced rhythm. Some believe it. Others are performing. You're not sure which you are today. The preacher slams a hand on the pulpit. You flinch. He speaks about sin and sloth and revolution, in that order. You wonder if he knows about Kessler, if he approved of what happened. You glance toward the altar, white linen, brass cross, candles. Historians still argue how much influence the Protestant church had over workers' daily lives during this era. But down here in the pews, it's not a question of faith. It's about visibility. Church attendance is proof you're still good. The sermon ends. The air shifts. People shuffle out in silence, boots clicking against the stone like a slow drum roll. Outside, the fog hasn't lifted. You don't go home, not yet. Instead, you wander. Past shuttered shops with dusty windows. Past the schoolhouse, its bell rusting in the tower. Past a tiny cemetery, its gate chained as if the dead might flee. You sit on a bench near the park. There's no grass, just dirt and one skeletal tree, but the breeze moves through it like it's worth something. And for a moment, you do nothing. No spinning, no hauling, no tying knots or ducking stairs, just breathing. Then a child runs past, barefoot, laughing. A girl behind him chases with a wooden spoon, grinning. Their mother yells from a window. Someone throws laundry water out without checking first. It misses you by inches. You take the hint and leave. Back at the tenement, the hallways feel heavier. A boy practices violin again, badly. A woman sobs 2 doors down, quietly, into something soft. Someone argues about cabbage. You open your door and find a flyer slipped underneath it. No name, just a smudged black star at the top. You know what it is. You don't read it. You burn it in the stove. You light the fire anyway. Sunday is cold. You deserve at least one warm room this week. You eat stale bread and a hard egg someone sold you on Friday. It's got a crack in the shell. You boil it anyway. The yolk is gray, but edible. Then you sit by the fire, knees drawn to your chest, and just listen. The building breathes. Somewhere above you, someone's making soup. Across the way, the washerwoman sings to herself in a language you don't know. A child is reading aloud, stumbling over syllables, repeating the same word. Freiheit. Freedom. You close your eyes. Tomorrow the bell will ring. Tomorrow the factory will swallow you whole again. But for now, the city is quiet. Unnaturally, uncomfortably quiet, like it's holding its breath. So you do the same. You wake to an itch, not a metaphor, a real one. Persistent, inescapable, starting at your neck, moving to your wrists, then your ankles. You scratch without thinking, until the scratching becomes frantic, panicked. You throw back the blanket and see it, the telltale red speckle along your sleeve, the faint blood dot constellation on your collar. Lice. You groan, not loud. Loud noises invite questions, just enough to let Otto the rat know that today, you've truly had it. You strip the bedding, shake it out the window like it insulted you. You watch little flecks of straw and dust spiral into the alley below. Then you pull the mattress up, rough canvas barely holding its shape, and spot what you feared. More specks, more movement. You mutter something unprintable and start boiling water. Again. You've lived in filth before, you've shared rooms, borrowed socks, rinsed shirts in the same basin you use for dishes. But lice? Lice are personal. They're a declaration from the city that no matter how hard you work, it still sees you as disposable. You throw your clothes into the basin with vinegar and water. You scrub until your knuckles bleed. Then you take inventory. Your coat, probably infested. You beat it against the stair rail. Your hat, into the oven it goes for an hour. Your scarf, you don't even want to look. You burn it. Your neighbor sees the smoke curling from your window and calls up, "You all right?" You call back, "Laundry day." She laughs. Laundry doesn't usually smell like wool on fire. You grunt. Mine does. Historians might call this the hidden labor of working class life. Unseen, unpaid, constant maintenance to stay just barely functional. You just call it a Monday. With your clothes drying, you sponge yourself down with water cold enough to make your bones hum. You scrub behind your ears like you're trying to remove your own skin. You dry off with your shirt from yesterday, because towels are a rumor in buildings like this. Then you layer up again, damp trousers, cracked boots, clean enough shirt. You feel fresher, but not free. Your scalp still itches. You're convinced it always will now. Outside, the weather has turned, windy, bitter. The kind that slaps your face like it knows you skipped church last week. You stop at the washerwoman's door. "Need lice soap," you say. She eyes you. "Lice?" You nod. She disappears for a moment, then reappears with a puck of gray horror that smells like burnt rope and death. You thank her. She says, "Don't thank me. Thank the goat it came from." You don't ask. At the factory, you keep your hat on longer than usual. You avoid standing too close to anyone, even though the floor is always packed shoulder to shoulder. You imagine them all infested, or judging you, or both. The new foreman, the one with the creased brow and polished boots, passes by. He sniffs once. You stiffen, but he keeps walking. You whisper a promise to yourself. If you make it to Friday without itching, you'll celebrate. Somehow. Maybe even a warm beer, maybe even socks without holes. But the lice aren't done with you. That night, you find another bite. Behind your ear, you curse, quietly, then out loud. Otto flinches. You apologize. He goes back to cleaning his face. You don't sleep much. Every tickle becomes a terror. Every breeze feels like tiny legs marching. Eventually, you drift off. You dream of bathing in a hot spring while wearing a crown made of soap. You wake up and laugh into your pillow. It's still damp and smells faintly of vinegar, but it's yours. Sunday was silence. Today is noise. You wake to the crash of a dropped coal bucket in the stairwell, followed by a string of curses from someone with a voice like sandpaper in rage. A door slams. A child screams. Someone starts pounding their laundry with rhythmic fury 2 floors down. And above all that, distant, steady, deliberate, the bells. Church bells, factory bells, tram bells. You wonder if Victorian Germany had a single moment without something clanging in the background. Even the rats seemed to squeak in time. You rise slowly, scratch absent-mindedly, just a little, and pull on your trousers. It's still cold, but your shirt has dried stiff. You twist it into obedience, muttering to yourself about how laundry shouldn't double as body armor. You look outside. The sky is the color of dishwater. Your neighbor, the violin boy, is already practicing. Still bad, still trying. You give him a slow clap through the wall. He replies with a sour note, which you take as a duet. Today's shift is shorter, sort of. The factory says it's a half day, but what that really means is fewer hours, same workload, and absolutely no reduction in expectations. You get there early, just in case. There's a sign posted near the gate. You stop. It's handwritten, pinned to a broken crate. No loitering near the premises, all workers to report immediately at shift bell, no unions. No crowds, no complaints. You read it twice, then you read it again. The man beside you says nothing, just rips it down and hands it to the foreman. The foreman nods, says nothing, crumples it. You walk in. Inside, the air feels tighter, like someone's turned the pressure up a notch. Everyone is working just a little too fast. No one is talking. The machines roar. You start your task, spinning, lifting, winding. Your hands remember the rhythm even if your head doesn't want to. An hour in, someone drops a spool. It rolls across the floor, bumps your foot. You freeze. So does the man beside you. You pick it up, hand it back. No one says thank you. No one needs to. That's the rule of the floor. Do the right thing quietly. Survival isn't always about rebellion. Sometimes it's about not making anyone look bad, including yourself. At lunch, another 5-minute miracle break. You eat boiled oats from a tin. They're cold and slightly bitter, but they're food. Across from you, someone's drawing in the dust with their finger. A map, a symbol, a sketch of home. You don't ask. You think about your own home. Not this room, not the building with its groaning beams and cabbage-flavored air. Your real home, the place you left. You can't remember what your front door looked like. Just the mud around it, the way the chicken sounded in the morning, your father's cough, your mother's hands. You don't miss it, but you remember it. After your shift, you return to your room and find your door ajar. You stop, look around. Nothing stolen, nothing touched, nothing obvious, but you feel it. Someone's been inside. You close the door, lock it, sit with your back to it for a while. Later, you check your things. The drawer with the hidden coin, still there. The little carved figure you brought from home, moved slightly. The pamphlet you burned, still burned. But maybe that didn't matter. Historians still argue whether the worst surveillance came from the state or from your neighbors. But at this level, what's the difference? Someone's always watching. You boil water just to feel like you're in control of something. You sit with the pot in your lap, steam curling around your face like a gentle ghost. Your room smells faintly like laundry soap and nerves. You write something on a scrap of paper, a list, things you still have. One good boot, a nearly loyal rat, a handful of coins, a job for now. The ability to be quiet. You tuck the list under your mattress, not because it's useful, but because it helps. Outside, the violin starts again. You hum along. The notes are bad, but they're brave, so you let them carry you to sleep. You hear it before you see him. Heavy boots on the stairs, slow, deliberate. The kind of steps that aren't in a hurry because they don't have to be. You're already up, half-dressed, hands still wet from washing out your socks in the basin. You don't breathe. 3 knocks. You freeze. Not your door. 1 floor down. Then a voice. Smooth, unhurried. Rent inspection. The phrase lands like a brick in your stomach. Rent inspections aren't about safety. They're about control. An excuse to snoop. To see who's living where, with how many people, using how many stoves, hiding how many guests. You lean against the wall and listen. Footsteps. Voices. The creak of someone's mattress as it's lifted. A cough. The scrape of a drawer opening. You can hear the landlord's voice now. Bauman. Calm. Casual. Asking questions that sound polite but feel like threats. How long have you had this blanket? Mind if I check behind the curtain? Is that your coal pile or your neighbor's? Then silence. Then more boots. Closer now. Your turn. You open the door before he knocks. It throws him a little, and you count that as a win. Morning, you say. He nods, steps in, doesn't ask. You step aside. He scans the room like he's reading a menu. Doesn't touch anything, just looks. The cracked window, the leaning chair, the bucket, Otto the rat, who very wisely stays hidden today. Been sick? He asks, gesturing to your washed shirt, drying by the stove. You nod. Better now. He raises an eyebrow like he doesn't believe you, but also doesn't care. He lifts your mattress, nothing under it but the usual straw and shame. He knocks the wall once, as if expecting it to confess something. He walks over to the stove, looks inside, smells the air, coal, soap, something faintly sweet from the neighbor's pot leaking through the wall. Do you sleep alone? He asks suddenly. The question hangs in the air. You nod once. He shrugs. Keep it that way. He leaves. No warning, no threat, no receipt. But now you're sweating through your shirt and you're not sure when that started. You relight the stove, more for comfort than heat. Your soup today is just water with old bread in it. You pretend it's stew. You chew slowly, carefully, like you're being watched, because maybe you are. You go to work. The factory feels sharper, colder, not physically, just emotionally, like the machines have teeth now and they've started to smile. The new foreman doesn't look up once. You think about what Bauman said. Keep it that way. Historians still debate whether tenement inspections were about legal enforcement or psychological warfare, but to you, they feel like a test you don't remember signing up for. You pass today. Maybe. At lunch, someone whispers about a family evicted in the middle of the night. No reason given, just dumped in the street with a mattress and a tin kettle. No one helped, not because they didn't care, but because helping puts you next in line. The afternoon drags. You step wrong at one point and your foot lands in an oil patch. You skid, catch yourself. No one notices. You keep moving. After your shift, you linger outside the factory gate. There's a bench nearby, half covered in coal dust. You sit, you close your eyes, you pretend just for a second that you're someone else. Someone not watched, not measured, not barely tolerated. Then someone else sits beside you. A woman. Maybe your age, maybe older, hard to tell. She doesn't speak, just pulls out a piece of bread, breaks it in half and hands you one. You take it, you chew in silence. When she stands to leave, she glances back. Saw him knock on your door, she says. You say nothing. She nods. They always knock harder the second time. Then she's gone. You go home. Your room is the same, but it feels different now. Exposed, inspected. You walk around it twice like you're checking for damage, even though you already know there isn't any. You lock the door. You lock it twice. You sit by the stove and write another list. This one's shorter. Things they can't take. Your silence, your thoughts, the songs through the wall. Otto, you read it 3 times, then you burn it, just in case. You're not surprised when the letter arrives. No envelope. Just a folded paper, hand-delivered by a boy with bare feet and a nose that's clearly lost multiple battles with frostbite. He doesn't say a word, just thrusts it into your hand and vanishes down the stairwell like a ghost in a hurry. You unfold it with one finger. Paper like this is a luxury, which means this is official. It's written in blocky ink, no signature, no flair. Recruitment notice. You are to report for inspection next Thursday. Bring your papers. Wear boots. That's all. No, dear sir. No explanation. No prompted, just orders. You reread it twice. It doesn't change. Conscription. You knew it was coming. Everyone your age does. But knowing and seeing it in writing, that's different. Your hand trembles slightly. You fold the letter back up and slide it into your coat. It crinkles like something alive. Otto emerges from behind the basin, blinks at you, then retreats. Even he knows what that paper means. The draft. You've seen it before. Boys leaving with stiff collars and hollow eyes. They get sent east or south or somewhere no one ever talks about. They come back months later, if they come back at all, either louder or quieter, either missing teeth or missing something you can't name. You sit on the bed and stare at the wall for a long time. Then you go to work, because what else is there? At the factory, you move slower, not on purpose, just slower. Every motion is weighed down by the sudden awareness that this could all change in a week, that the hiss of the machine, the stink of grease, the accidental rhythm of 30 people breathing in sync, this might all vanish, replaced by drills, shouts, boots in mud. You glance around at the others. Do they know? Are they watching you more closely now? You get through the day. Barely. When you get home, the tailor is sitting on the stoop again. You sit next to him. You say nothing for a while. Just watch the city's fog blur the world into soft shadows. Finally, he speaks. Letter came? You nod. He puffs on his pipe. What did it say? You tell him, briefly, quietly. He exhales. They say, marching builds character. You snort. I don't need character. He nods. You'll get it anyway. You both sit. Then he pulls something from his coat. A small piece of cloth. A patch. Roughly stitched. No symbol. Just thick black thread sewn into a square. For your coat, he says. If they take you, keeps the wind out. You take it. You don't say thank you. But you do fold it carefully and press it against your chest before tucking it into your pocket. Inside, your room feels colder. The stove needs coal. You don't light it. You sit at your table and write another list. This one's different. Things to take if they call you up. The cloth patch. The good socks, if you can find them. The memory of the bench outside the factory. The name of the washerwoman who once said you looked hungry. A photo, if you had one. Auto? Maybe. Depends on transport rules. Historians still debate whether the military was an escape or a sentence for young men in late 19th century Germany. You suspect the answer is yes. You lie in bed fully clothed, just in case someone knocks. No one does. The violin plays across the hall, slower tonight, sadder. It sinks into the floorboards like spilled ink. You listen until sleep comes. You dream of boots marching through fog and a patch of cloth fluttering on your shoulder like a flag made from someone else's story. You stop lighting candles at night, not because you've run out, though that's true, but because light feels dangerous now. Too many eyes, too many ears, too many footsteps on the stairs that don't stop at your door, but come close enough to make your heartbeat jump like a dropped hammer. You live in the dark now, mostly, and that includes your thoughts. By day, you still work. The factory hasn't changed. The machines still groan. The oil still stinks. The walls still sweat steam. But you notice the edges now, the way the gears grind down a little more each day, the way the foreman's cough doesn't stop between shifts, the cracks in the floorboards wider than last week. Even the air feels thinner, like the whole place is breathing shallow. You start clocking things. How long it takes the kettle to boil. How long it takes the man in line ahead of you to pack his finished spools. How long it takes for your hands to stop shaking after lunch. The days blur. Your body keeps moving, but your mind drifts. To the letter in your coat, to the tailor's cloth patch, to what kind of boots you'll wear if you go. Not if. When. You start collecting quiet things. A button that looks like your mother's. A matchbook with half the matches left. A flat stone that fits your palm perfectly. You keep them in a sock under the bed. Not for survival. For remembering. You wonder if Otto knows. He's quieter lately, sleeps more, or hides better. You miss him when he's not visible, which is a strange thing to say about a rat. But then again, you're not exactly normal anymore. One night, the gaslight goes out across the block. No explanation, no warning, just a snap, a hiss, then darkness. You hear the city exhale. For a moment, it's peaceful. Then, nothing. Some people panic, others light lamps, a few curse into the black. You sit perfectly still. The silence is soothing, honest. You can't see your walls, but you can feel them, and that's almost better. Then you hear it, a knock, 3 times, not at your door, somewhere below, then another, upstairs. No voices, just knuckles against wood. You don't move, you barely breathe. You remember something from childhood, a story about ghosts who only knock, never speak, about spirits that count your breath while you sleep. You shake it off, but the thought lingers. Later, the light comes back. dim, flickering. Your neighbor's violin starts again. It's a short song, only a few notes, but you hum along. You recognize it now. You remember the words. It's a soldier's song, from before the wars, before unification, about leaving a village behind and marching into smoke. You think about marching. You think about leaving. Historians still debate whether conscription in the German Empire was truly unavoidable. Exceptions existed: illness, bribes, sudden loss of paperwork. But for people like you, workers with no pull and no luck, the path is straight, narrow, paved in mud. You write another list, things you might say to avoid the draft. I am sick. I support my family. I am weak. I am invisible. You tear it up. No one believes the poor when they speak. Instead, you prepare. You clean your boots. You sew a missing button. You press the cloth patch into place. You stare into the mirror and practice standing straight. You don't recognize yourself. And maybe that's the point. You lie down, blanket pulled tight, breath slow, eyes open, and for once, no dreams. Just that same violin tune, rising like smoke through the floor. You make the mistake of hoping, just a little. The letter said Thursday. Today is Thursday, but it's already midday, and no one's knocked. No officials, no boots on the stairs, no calls to line up outside the registry office. For a few fragile minutes, you let yourself believe it was a mistake. Maybe they forgot. Maybe the paper was never meant for you. Maybe the tailor said something. Maybe fate is tired of toying with you. But then, at exactly 2 in the afternoon, the knock comes, not loud, not rushed, but unmistakable. You answer. 2 men wait in the stairwell, one in uniform, the other with a clipboard. They don't greet you. They don't need to. The uniform alone speaks volumes. You nod. The clipboard nods back. Papers, the man says. You hand them over. Your fingers tremble, but not too much. He scans them. His eyes linger on your birth year, then your name, then back to your face. You'll report tomorrow. Registry hall, dawn. He hands the papers back. No smile, no further instructions. The men leave. That's it. You close the door and stand there for a long time, hand still clutching the knob. Tomorrow. The word echoes. You thought you were prepared. The patch is sewn. The socks are cleanish. The boots are still split at the heel, but they'll make it to the office. You thought knowing the date would help you breathe easier. It doesn't. You sit down and draft a note. Not a letter. Not really. Just a few lines. You write, "If I don't come back, the rat stays." You smile, barely. Then you burn it. You pack. There's not much to pack. Your scarf, a handkerchief, a piece of dried bread wrapped in newspaper, the button from your mother's coat, the tailor's patch, the matchbook. You stare at it all for a while. You don't own much, but it all feels heavy. You leave your room. You walk. Not far, just around the block. You pass the beer hall. It's quiet this early. The windows are fogged from someone washing the glass inside. You nod to the washerwoman who sells pickled eggs outside. She nods back. She says, "Long trip?" You shrug. She doesn't press. You reach the square. The bakery is open, the smell of fresh rolls hanging in the air like a promise. You think about buying one. You check your pockets. 1 coin left. You keep it, just in case bread's not what you need tomorrow. A boy is feeding pigeons near the fountain. They gather at his feet like tiny, fluttering beggars. He laughs, for real. A sound so clean you forget, for a moment, that you're leaving. You sit on a bench and watch the sky. It's gray, as usual, but the clouds are high today. Light filters through in hazy streaks, like the world is trying to remember how to be kind. You walk home. You clean the room. Not for you. For whoever gets it next. You scrub the basin. You beat the mattress. You open the window for a while. Otto complains from under the bed. "Sorry, little one," you murmur. "I'll leave some crumbs." You do. You eat a small meal, just bread and broth. You chew slowly. You light the stove, not because it's cold, but because you want to fall asleep to the sound of something warm. You sit on the bed with your boots beside you. You don't cry. You don't pray. You just sit. The violin starts again. But this time, it's different. A new song. Still slow, still soft, but with more courage in the notes. Like someone playing for themselves now. Not for company, not for attention, just to remember what their hands can do. You lie down, you whisper, "Good night," to the ceiling, to the floor, to the walls that kept you in and held you up, to Otto, to yourself. Tomorrow you report, but tonight you sleep. You wake before the sky changes, not because of noise, not because of nerves, just because your body knows it has to. There's no one else awake yet, no footsteps in the hall, no violin. Even Otto stays quiet, as if he knows something serious is underway. The room feels like it's holding its breath. You dress in silence. The shirt is clean. The boots are laced. The scarf wraps high enough to hide the tired in your eyes. You check your pocket twice. Papers, patch, coin, still there. You glance around the room. It looks smaller than it did last night, like it's already started forgetting you. You sit on the edge of the bed and eat a crust of bread. It tastes like nothing. That feels appropriate. The air outside is sharp, damp, and bitter. You pull your coat tight and descend the stairs. You pass the door of the washerwoman. Closed, no sounds. You pass the tailor's stoop. Empty. Just a dent in the step where he usually sits. Out on the street, the city is only half formed. Fog hugs the corners. A cart clatters in the distance. A tram bell rings somewhere behind the haze. The bakery is still shuttered. Even the dogs seem to be sleeping in today. You walk toward the registry office. Your boots slap against the wet cobbles. You count them. 1, 2, 1, 2, like a march you didn't volunteer for but are following anyway. Others join you along the way, men about your age, silent, upright, each carrying their life in a coat pocket or under their arm. You don't speak, but you see them. You nod. They nod back. One offers a cough, another has a limp, one hums under his breath. When you reach the building, there's a line. Of course there is. You join it. The man in front of you smells like coal dust and regret. The boy behind you hums the same lullaby you heard through the walls last week. The door opens. Names are called. People go in. Some don't come out. Inside, it smells of wet wood and ink. You move slowly, inching forward. When your name is called, you step forward without thinking. You hand over your papers. The clerk looks at them, looks at you, makes a mark in a book. He gestures toward a second room. You step in. The room is plain. A doctor in a wrinkled coat nods to you. He taps your chest, listens to your breath, makes you stretch, bend, touch your toes. You're strong, he says. You nod, not proudly, just because it's true. Report to Station 12, he adds. Tomorrow. You dress again. Your shirt clings to your back. Outside, you breathe deeply. The fog has started to lift. The buildings around you look taller now. The streets louder. You step into them like someone learning to walk again. You don't go home right away. You go to the river. The water is brown and sluggish, but it moves. You watch it for a long time. You wonder what it would be like to get on a boat and keep going. East, west, somewhere with fewer bells, but you stay. Later, you return to the tenement. You tell no one what they said. You sit on your bed and press the patch that the tailor gave you. You pack again. This time, it feels real. The sun sets early. You don't light a candle. The violin doesn't play. You lie down in the dark, and you wait for tomorrow. Morning comes with too much light. The sky is cloudless, pale, almost gentle, as if it doesn't know what day it is, as if it doesn't care that you're about to leave everything behind. You sit up. The room is quiet, not the usual quiet. This one is too clean, too final. The kind of silence that settles after something's already ended. You rise, dress slowly. Every motion is a goodbye. You check the basin, empty. The corner where the water always dripped, dry. Even Otto is gone this morning, off chasing crumbs or memories or just staying out of the way. You fold the blanket, not because it'll help anyone, just because someone should leave this room looking like it mattered. The stove is cold. You leave it that way. You shoulder your bag, light. Everything important fits inside your coat. Before you go, you sit once more on the windowsill. The street below is already awake. A woman arguing with a cart driver. A man hawking yesterday's rolls. Children chasing each other through puddles. Nothing's changed, and yet everything has. You step into the hallway, the boards creak their usual tune. The air smells like damp wood and old breakfast. You knock once on the washerwoman's door. No answer. You pass the tailor's stoop. He's there, smoking, as always. He nods. You nod back, that's all. At the corner, the boy with the violin is standing in the alley, not playing, just holding the instrument like he forgot what it's for. He sees you, doesn't speak, just lifts it. One note, then another. You smile, small, tired. You walk on. At the station, men are lining up again. Boots, coats, blank stares. One clutches a tin box. Another holds a letter with trembling fingers. You recognize one, barely. He worked the dive floor, lost part of a fingernail last year. He's humming. You step into line and wait. You don't know where they'll send you. You don't know if you'll be back. You don't know if the tenement will still smell like boiled cabbage in spring, or if the washerwoman will ever let anyone else scrub her soap into someone's shirt. You don't know what happens next, but you're ready, sort of, because you survived here. Through soot and sickness, through soup that wasn't soup, through silence and violin songs and notes under your door. You survived somehow, and that means you might survive what comes next. The bell rings, you step forward, and the world, once again, begins to move. And now, you're still here, not in the tenement, not in the factory, not standing in line with paper in hand and boots too thin for marching. Just here, breathing, letting the echoes of that life settle like dust around your shoulders. You can picture the hallway again, can't you? The scuffed boards, the whisper of steam behind a neighbor's door, maybe even the slow turn of the tailor's head as you pass by without speaking. It's distant now, dimmed, like something you watch through a window on a rainy evening, because that world, for all its weight and wear, was never yours to keep, just to pass through. You did that, and now you can let it go. Let the coughs fade into quiet. Let the coal smoke sky clear in your memory. Let the street lamps flicker one last time before going dark. There's no bell here, no foreman, no folded note under the door. Just sleep, just stillness, just the soft, steady rhythm of your breath, like footsteps walking home through a silent city. You're warm now, safe now, done for today. The story has ended, and you're allowed to rest, so let the world go quiet, let the violin fade, and when you wake, know you survived, just like always.